And hello and a fabulous Sunday evening to everybody out there. This is Jason and glad to have you with me for another edition of It's Dodgers Time, the podcast, coming to you courtesy of Driving to the Top Productions. And before I go on and get onto our topics tonight, I just want to thank first and foremost all of you for joining me. It's great to have you watching, whether you're viewing from the comfort of your own home or whatever. Hey, I'm glad to have you with me and look forward to the topics we're going to discuss tonight. Obviously, this is a show devoted entirely to my lifelong love for the Los Angeles Dodgers. In fact, I need to address that because I ran across somebody earlier this week who asked me when he saw me out in public wearing my Mike Piazza replica jersey and my Dodgers hat, dude, are you a new Dodgers fan? And I'm like, what does that mean? A new Dodgers fan? Are you trying to infer that I became a fan after 2020, after 2024, 2025? So I'm just going to go ahead and set the record straight right now. I am not a new Dodgers fan. I was born December 3rd, 1975. And even though I missed out on those great teams of the 70s, the Russell, Garvey, Say, Lopes era, so on and so forth, I still remember that great team in 88 with the Bulldog and Kirk Gibson, two of my favorite Dodgers ever. Mike Piazza, one of my favorite Dodgers in the 90s, along with Eric Karros. So, folks, I have been a Dodgers fan ever since I was about 9-10 years old. So that's the God honest truth. And if you have a problem with it, you can bring it up with me. Speaking of which, I don't have my Twitter handle here on display, but if you guys want to follow me, you can find me on X/Twitter at DodgerJason. Feel free to follow me and comment, interact with me any way you want. Of course, if you guys tune in to Driving to the Top Productions on Monday and Tuesday nights, you'll probably find me talking on Fans of the Diamond. And also, you'll also find me talking on open mic nights sometimes, where we opine and pretty much get into it just about everything concerning all the major sports headlines taking place. So anyway, that's where you can find me. And again, I'm glad to have you guys with me. So I actually was going to come to you guys yesterday, but the reason why I wanted to hold off and do the show tonight is because it's the end of the week post All-Star break for the Dodgers. And I felt that coming off this really grueling 9-game road trip would be kind of a great way to update you guys on everything that's going on with the Dodgers right now and what kind of lies in store for them as they head on through the last 59 or 60 games of the season. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. And if you guys have some comments, I will try and get to them as soon as I can. I'll be doing some multitasking here. So yay, looking forward to that. All right. Well, like I said, the Dodgers are just at the tail end of their 9-game East Coast road trip, which saw them finish overall at 6-3. And even though we laid an egg against the Mets today, we lost 8-3. By the way, thanks a lot, bullpen, for another implosion. I really appreciate it. So do other Dodgers fans. Still, by and large, when you factor in that the Dodgers really slumped to end the first half of the season, they went into the All-Star break having lost, I think, 5 or 6 of their last 8 or 9. To come out of the All-Star break and go on this 9-game trip, which started off in the Bronx against the Yankees, went to the bank against the Phillies, and came back to New York, where they ended up taking 2 or 3 from the Mets and Queens. I'd say overall it was a pretty successful road trip. Obviously, we all would have loved them to go 9-0, but the Dodgers ran into some of their season-long problems during this trip, but overall, by and large, I would say they did about as well as I could expect and about as well as anybody else would have expected as well. So obviously, with this 9-game road trip really comes at an important time for the Dodgers as well, because as you guys are all probably aware, if you're keeping up to date with the Major League Baseball goings on, we have the non-waiver trade deadline, which is coming up on August 3rd. So that bad boy is just right around the corner. And so this is really kind of the best time of the season, not only for the Dodgers, but for other teams in contention or at that contending line to really judge themselves and determine, okay, what are our needs? Are we contending? Do we think we can contend? And if we do think we can contend, who do we go out and get? Either 1, 2, or 3 players that can potentially put us over the hump. So getting back to the Dodgers, as far as this East Coast trip is concerned, we have the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I'm not talking about one of my favorite Clint Eastwood movies either. So let's get into the good that this 9-game road trip exposed for the Dodgers and the other boys in blue. First and foremost, Freddie Freeman, multi-base hits. Freddie Freeman has been a multi-base, extra base hit machine. In fact, he has over 570-something of them, if I recall, upon recollection. But Freddie got a lot of those during this East Coast jaunt with the Yankees, the Phillies, and the Mets. And that's really big because Freddie kind of went into a little bit of a lull before the All-Star break. And coming out of the break, he's been swinging the bat really well. In fact, he's probably one of the 3 best Dodgers hitters in the lineup right now. And the thing with Freddie that makes him different from other players on this team is that when he goes into a slump, he's not going to stay in it very long. And he's had his share of slumps this season, fellow Dodgers fans and fellow baseball fans. But Freddie, though, is a professional hitter. This guy is a pro's pro. This guy knows how to make adjustments. This guy spends extra time in the cage, both before, during, and after games. And he is absolutely one of the best hitters of all time, in my estimation, of making in-game adjustments, figuring out, okay, where do I need to stand in the box? Where do I need to move my hands in relations to holding the bat? What do I need to look for on a 2-2 count versus a 1-2 count? He is one of the best ever at doing that. And so he proved that in this road trip with the Yankees, the Phillies, and the Mets, because he had a lot of those multi-base hits that kept the innings rolling. He kept the conga line rolling, and that led to some fairly, at times, even run distribution for the Dodgers, although a lot of it was uneven, and I'll get to that here in just a little bit. Another good for the Dodgers, the length from the starting rotation, and this has been actually one of their strengths all season long. The Dodgers actually are, I believe, second or third best in Major League Baseball at average starts per 9 inning as a rotation. They average more than 6.2 innings per start for each of their pitchers, which is really good, especially in this day and age of modern baseball analytics, where we're seeing starting pitchers average fewer innings per start. We're seeing relievers tack on more workload onto their arms and their elbows. Relievers over the last few years are actually notching up more total innings of work than what starting pitchers are. And the Dodgers last season, guys, on our road to the World Series, depth in our starting rotation was not the problem, but the average length per start was. The Dodgers starters did not go very deep into ball games last season, and it put a lot of burden and a lot of stress on the bullpen towards the end of the year. Well, flip that narrative this season. This season, our starters are going deep into ball games, and that's really helping out the bullpen, but still, bullpen has run into some issues as of late, and I'll get into that in just a second as well. So Freeman with the multi-base hits, that's outstanding. More length from the starting rotation, that's outstanding too. Max Muncy, defensive whiz. Who knew? Okay, when Max Muncy made this great experiment to go to third base, watching Muncy play third base was akin to watching the circus. I mean, this guy was booting every ground ball. He was throwing wide of the first baseman. I mean, he was throwing balls into the concourse section at Dodger Stadium. But Max Muncy, during this 9-game road trip especially, he was a vacuum cleaner at third base. And even though he had some moments offensively with his bat, which is ultimately what he gets the paycheck for, defensively, he was very impressive this series. And not only just this series, but the entire season. And I'm not going to say he's been Ron Cey at third base, guys, but I mean, Max Muncy, Gold Glove Award 2026, you can make an argument. And while I haven't looked up the metrics or looked up the statistics to see where he ranks among the other best fielding third basemen in the National League or Major League Baseball for that fact, Muncy's play defensively at third base has kept the Dodgers in a lot of games, especially a lot of these close 2-1, 3-1, 2-0 affairs that they've been winning recently. So Max Muncy, defensive whiz, who knew? And yes, I am going to put Roki Sasaki up there with the good. Now, why? because Sasaki, Dodger fans, as you know, has been the true definition of peaks and valleys. He'll have one start where he goes 6 2/3, strikes out 8, surrenders only 3 or 4 hits, maybe gives up a home run here and there, walks 3 batters, but by and large, he eventually settles in. But then he'll have another start where he scatters 12 over 4 2/3, gives up eight runs, and he, again, curls up in the fetal position, crawls underneath the dugout bench, and cries a river. That's about as long as the LA River. Well, Roki actually has looked really, really good in the 2 starts that he's had post All-Star break. That is very important, especially in this most recent series with the Mets, where he was clocked at 100 miles per hour plus with that fastball and that cut fastball of his. And that's important because that's the Roki Sasaki we saw last October coming out of the bullpen. He had the confidence, and even though he gave up a couple of home runs or 1 home run here and there, still he didn't cry. He kept his composure, kept his head stuck in the game, and more importantly, kept his team in the game. That's the Roki Sasaki that the LA Dodgers want to see more of, and they need to see more consistency out of him. And that is also magnified because of Shohei Ohtani's problems on the mound, which we will get into here momentarily. So, again, just to recap the good from this 9-game road trip, Freddie Freeman, keep those multi-hits running, man. Those are more important than home runs. Starting rotation, keep going the distance. It's needed. Give that bullpen some rest. Max Muncy, you better not flub up and start committing 12 errors in your next 6 games after what I said, buddy. Keep it up. And Roki, doing a great job, kid. You're learning the hard way, but hey, sometimes that's the best way to learn. So I did mention there was some bad involved with this 9-game road trip. I mean, hey, everything can't be perfect, right? As much as we would like it to be. So let's get into the first key point of the bad, which is Shohei's left knee. Okay, so I'm going to take you guys back to the Philadelphia series. Ohtani was slated to pitch in the Philly series, I believe, last Wednesday. But Dave Roberts announced on the Tuesday before that they were going to yank Shohei from that start because his left knee still was not responding to the bullpen sessions that he was throwing. So fast forward to this weekend. Shohei was supposed to start, I believe, in this Mets series because they pushed him back again. But Shohei threw another bullpen session after the Dodgers' first game against the Mets on Friday. The knee still did not respond. And that is very concerning. And when Dave Roberts was asked by Dodgers reporters Kirsten Watson and David Vassegh after the game, Dave gave them the typical Dave ambiguous response. Well, we expect him to be on the mound sometime this season. We don't know if it's going to be next week. We don't know if it's going to be next month or if it's going to be in October. This is very, very concerning. I've already said this before, but for me, it's a lot more concerning. And here's the reason why. Shohei has not swung the bat well during this entire 9-game road trip they just got off of. And I was watching the game a lot yesterday and today. And specifically, I was looking at Shohei's mechanics with his lower body, how he was moving during his follow-through and his swing. He was clearly favoring that left knee. And there was actually a point in yesterday's game, even though he went, I think, 2 for 4, he drilled a base hit, and he actually tried to stretch. He tried to stretch a single into a double. He got thrown out at second, but you could clearly see him just favoring the left leg. And he's not. I mean, he's hustling every single play, but he's not running as if he was not having problems with that leg. Very concerning. Very concerning. And it was just. Also, I could tell in a lot of his other at-bats, he was just afraid to put too much weight on that left leg. And any great hitter will tell you that the most important thing of being a great hitter is having balance throughout your entire body. When you're in the box, when you're stepping back, when you're going through your swing, and when you're following through, you need to have weight distribution. And if you can't put even weight distribution as a hitter on both of your legs, it's almost akin to a pitcher going through his windup and a delivery. A pitcher needs to have outstanding mechanics and needs to have weight distribution while he's going through his windup and delivery to deliver a pitch. Well, the same thing applies to a hitter, just on the opposite side. And I've already gone on record, especially on open mic night and on Fans of the Diamond chats on a couple of occasions, by saying, guys, The Dodgers right now have a firecracker in their hands with Shohei, and it's just waiting to explode. My biggest concern, and I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy here, is that Shohei is just going to torque the wrong way. Or when he's running down the first base line, he's going to try and stretch it out, a sure out into a single, and he's going to jam that leg on the bag, or he's going to collide with somebody, or he's going to get hit. And again, I'm not trying to be the harbinger of doom here, but suffice to say, if we lose Shohei, our World Series title hopes go down the drain. It's that simple. And I do not agree with the way Dave Roberts and Andrew Friedman and Brandon Gomes are handling Shohei's situation. He is clearly not comfortable on that leg as a hitter, as he is not comfortable on that leg as a pitcher. My belief, just as a fan, as a knowledgeable fan, I consider myself a knowledgeable fan, just watching Shohei, put him on the injured list. All right, put him on the IL for 10 days or 15 days. Call up Jose De Paula, their top outfield prospect. Have him DH for a little bit. Let's see what Jose De Paula can do before you decide whether or not you're going to trade him. But put Shohei on the injured list. Knee inflammation does not get better by having him play every other day or every 2 days. The more you put him out there, the more stress you're going to put on his leg, regardless of pitching or hitting. Subsequently, that is eventually going to lead to an injury. Knee inflammation only gets better with rest and rehab, and of course, proper medication, proper strength and conditioning as well. Now, granted, I'm just a fan. I don't know what happens behind closed doors in the Dodgers training room, but the way this team is handling Shohei, I do not agree with it. And I'm sure he has a clause in his contract that states, hey, he gets bonuses for a certain number of plate appearances and a certain number of hits and RBIs. And even Dave Roberts came out earlier this weekend and said, look, Shohei is still going to be an MVP regardless of how much we play him. Wrong, Dave. I disagree with you. Shohei is having a solid season. And if this is a down season for him, God, I would give my Dodger Blue left you-know-what to have the season he's having. I mean, 22, 23 home runs, a 280 batting average. He's still putting up solid numbers, but these are not the Shohei MVP numbers that we saw last season, and they're definitely not the MVP numbers we saw the season before. 50 home runs, 60 home runs, 115, 120, 130 driven in. We know what Shohei puts up as an MVP, and this season he's putting up solid numbers, but they are nowhere close to being MVP numbers. So that's part of the bad with the Dodgers from this 9-game road trip is Shohei just did not look comfortable up at the bat, and they need to figure out what to do sooner rather than later before this blows up in their face. More bullpen breakdowns. Hello, fellow Dodger fans. Stop me if you've heard this before. Okay, look, I understand Evan Phillips is coming off Tommy John surgery, and he's not going to be actually out throwing darts. But Evan Phillips has struggled since his call-up from the injured list. Will Klein right now is pretty much the pure definition of a flash in the pan. The bullpen breakdowns are becoming a lot more problematic, especially with their right-handed relievers. And I'm actually going to get into that a little bit here down the road because I have a right-handed reliever as one of my top trade targets for the Dodgers. I'm not going to tell you who that is yet. We're going to have to wait till we get to that segment. But the bullpen breakdowns are nothing new for the Dodgers, folks. Fellow fans, we've seen this before from the Dodgers on many seasons in the past, especially, 2024? At one point, their bullpen was best described by Dodgers broadcaster Charlie Steiner as, quote, an Indiana Jones rickety bridge. They just could not bridge the 7th and 8th innings to the 9th innings. And even when they did bridge it to the 9th inning, they never had a reliable closer who could get the job done. Well, they have some good closers this season. I mean, Tanner Scott is having a wonderful resurgent season for the Dodgers as a closer. And but with that being said, though, the right-handed middle relief has been a sore spot. Now, the Dodgers are going to be getting some reinforcements back in that bullpen to kind of help ease the workload from some of those guys. But again, the bullpen breakdowns are still a problem, are still an issue. And I think the Dodgers will need to address that at the trade deadline as they move forward here. Another bad from this past weekend's 9-game road trip, more runners stranded. And you know what? I harp all the time about Rob Van Scoyoc being a terrible hitting coach because I'm of the mind where hitters are only as great as, aside from the individual work they put in and out of their game day in and day out, both off the field and on the field, they're also only as great as the philosophy that's preached upon them. And just out of curiosity, I actually went in and Googled to find out where the Dodgers rank in terms of leaving runners stranded in scoring position this season. Dodgers are 7th worst in Major League Baseball in leaving runners on the bases, leaving ducks on the pond. And that was really prevalent this past weekend. Perfect situation. The day cap with the Mets today. Okay. What happens? Mookie Betts leads off the inning. I believe it was the 4th inning with he ropes a solid double, gets onto second base, standing up, doesn't break a sweat. What happens? The next 3 hitters come up, pop fly in the air on the first pitch. There's out number 1. What happens? Ground ball to third baseman on the second pitch. There's out number 2. What happens? Third batter strikes out. That's it. Mookie's left stranded. Now, we all know that when runners get on base, they're not going to be able to come across and score every single time. And while it's possible for a team to go 10 for 10 or 12 for 12 with runners in scoring position, very rarely does it happen. But the Dodgers make stranded base runners look like an exact science. And I noticed in a lot of their at-bats this past weekend, in the entire 9-game road trip, when they had situations with runners on and less than 2 outs, they were either taking bad swings, they were taking bad approaches at the plate. It comes down to the philosophy. It comes down to what they are being told by Rob Van Scoyoc and Aaron Bates, who are their 2 hitting coaches. Now, I know I'm not in that dugout, fellow fans. I know that I'm not listening to what they're telling these guys in pregame meetings and postgame meetings or what's to be shared. And if I was a better hitting coach than Rob Van Scoyoc, I would not be behind the mic here with you guys tonight. But what I am seeing right now is it's not nearly a lack of discipline so much as it is just it's bad pitch selection. They're swinging at bad pitches. They're swinging at stuff that they shouldn't be swinging at. And this was very emblematic of some of their early season struggles back in late April and early in mid-May, where they just weren't connecting. And it gets to the point where players have to stop saying, well, I got to take better swings. Well, I got to do this. Well, I got to do that. You have to start pointing your finger at the hitting coaches and saying, what are you guys teaching them? We've already seen a couple of major league teams this year axe their hitting coaches because they are so crappy at hitting, they couldn't keep their jobs. I mean, the Boston Red Sox fired their entire coaching staff because they were so terrible at one point. And I believe the Athletics got rid of their hitting coach recently because they can't hit their way out of a paper bag right now. And I think another team ended up firing their hitting coach. So what I'm trying to say is that hitting coaches definitely make a difference in the philosophy and the teachings that they impart on the hitters in the lineup and on the entire roster. And for those of you who are going to tell me, well, hitting coaches don't make a difference, Rich Eisen, okay? If hitting coaches don't make a difference, why do major league teams employ them? Okay. If quarterback coaches on NFL teams don't make a difference, why do NFL teams employ them? And if shooting coaches don't make a difference on NBA teams, why do NBA teams employ them? Here's the reason why. Because you need a philosophy, you need a general approach. And in baseball, more than any other sport, it's all about nuances. It's the little things. The old saying goes, guys, baseball is a game of inches, okay? And it's the little things, the nuances, and the science of hitting that determine how successful you are. And this is what pisses me off about launch angle and exit velocity. Okay, I am sick and tired, as much as I love Oral Hershiser and Steve Nelson and Joe Davis in the Dodgers broadcasting booth. I am sick and tired of every time those guys talking about launch angle and exit velocity. That is the problem right there. Okay, and again, I understand the Dodgers aren't going to be able to cash in all these runs they leave on base all the time. But come on, going 2 for 25, going 4 for 16, going 1 for 15. Are you kidding me? Okay. At this juncture of the season, you need to be making more intelligent decisions. You need to be making better decisions at bat. And even though I know that ball is coming at you going about 120 miles an hour or whatever it is, hitting a baseball is the toughest thing in sports to do. I'm aware of that. I played the game when I was in high school. Yeah, that doesn't amount for much, but I know what it's like. Still, these guys are pros. A lot of these guys are all-stars. A lot of these guys are going to be Hall of Famers. They are paid millions and millions and millions of dollars to go up there and make the game of baseball look as simplistic as taking out the garbage and driving a car. So they got to figure out a way to start advancing runners, to keep the line moving. Quit swinging for the fences. A home run is merely a byproduct of great hitting. What I want to see as an old school fan, I want to see sacrifices. I want to see suicide squeezes. I want to see bunts. I want to see singles roped down the right field line that draws extra bases. It's that type of hitting that's going to determine what the Dodgers can do this season in their quest to repeat 3 consecutive seasons as World Series champions. So that's just some of the bad that I saw this past weekend. And yes, we do have the ugly, and I'm sorry, fans, but the ugly reared its ugly face again at us. Kyle Tucker and Emmett Sheehan. Now, I will say this for Kyle Tucker. He got some good swings in during this Mets series, but by and large, it has still been an ugly display for Kyle Tucker. And again, I'm keeping in mind that hitting a baseball is not an easy thing to do. But I have vivid memories of what Kyle Tucker did to us several seasons ago when he was with the Astros. This guy was batting .300 on a regular basis. He was being talked about among the 10 best hitters in all of Major League Baseball. And this season, it has been, to say it's been a struggle is an understatement. There was one particular at-bat he had in the game against the Mets last night where he completely opened up his stance, and he swung the bat like he was swinging a fungo bat at a Nerf ball, going for a foosball that was way on the outside part of the plate. That had to be, without a doubt, single-handedly the worst at-bat I have ever seen any hitter take in the last 5-6 years, give or take. And I'm sure I've seen a lot more, but I'm just not remembering them. But where I'm going with this is that that swing showed to me a few things with Kyle Tucker. Number one, he's just not confident up there. He's not confident in what he's doing. And just like any hitter, if he doesn't have confidence, he's not going to feel comfortable in the box, and he's not going to feel comfortable with his pitch selection and what he's swinging at. Number two, and I'm going to hit on this again, Rob Van Scoyoc. Launch angle and exit velocity, the Rob Van Scoyoc effect. And yes, I'm going to be redundant when I say I don't know what Van Scoyoc is showing these guys on the iPad. But for those of you who have even seen Kyle Tucker's at-bats this season, all season long, his body is going in 3 or 4 different places when he swings the bat. He's getting his hips way out in front before he finishes his follow-through on his swing. He's not protecting the strike zone very well. He is not making adjustments when he's up there, especially on 2 strikes. Now, he did a little bit during the last 2 games of this Mets series. In fact, he had in the game yesterday, and then on Friday night, he had a couple of impressive-looking home runs. But by and large, he is still struggling. And I don't know what this means for the Dodgers moving forward. I know they brought him in, obviously, for his ability to stabilize the middle part of that lineup. But here we are coming into the end of July and the first week in August. And Tucker is still swinging the bat like Helen Keller at a piñata party. If he hasn't figured it out by now, I don't know if he ever will. Am I willing to chalk it up to just having one of those seasons? Sure, because every player in Major League Baseball has that one season. As great as Nolan Ryan was, he had a couple of seasons on the mound where he went 17-15 or he went 13-16. Nolan Ryan had about as many losses in his career as he had wins. Wade Boggs, one of the greatest overall hitters I ever saw play the game, had moments where he would go, 7 for 40 or 5 for 55 or whatever. It happens to everybody. But this has been all season long for Tucker, which tells me that there's more going on than just his mechanics and just his overall approach at the plate. It could also be between the ears. And I've seen enough baseball in my 50-plus years on this planet to know that a lot of great players have lost their careers because of what happened to them mentally. I referenced Chuck Knobloch, the great former American League Rookie of the Year with the Minnesota Twins. Knobloch was one of the greatest players at his position. And then when he went to the Yankees, played second base, he all of a sudden got the yips, couldn't throw a baseball from second to first anymore, and it ultimately doomed his career at the end. I hope that this doesn't happen to Tucker here in terms of his hitting, but if he hasn't figured it out by now, I don't know what's left for him. Now, I know that Dave Roberts has lowered him down in the lineup a little bit to try and give him more opportunity to swing at some better pitches, but still, there's only 9 spots in the batting lineup, Dave. And it seems like wherever you're batting Tucker, whether it's batting him cleanup or 6th or 7th or 8th, you're running out of spots to bat him, Doc. And there may come a point in time here where you have to sit down with Brandon Gomes and Andrew Friedman and say, look, are we just going to have to bench him? Maybe give him a mental kick in the head to see if benching a $245 million plus player might do him some good. Who knows? That's up to the brass, the front office brass to make, not me. I'm going to say Emmett Sheehan for the ugly, and here's the reason why. Again, much like Roki Sasaki, inconsistent. And if the Dodgers have had any problems with their starting rotation this year, it's been at the back end, where Roki and Emmett have been relied upon to give them consistent starts, but it just hasn't happened. Now, Roki is, at least right now, and I mean knock on wood here, Roki is starting to develop a little bit. But Emmett right now is really struggling with his control early in the first 2 or 3 or 4 innings of his games. He's having a difficult time locating his pitches, and his velocity has been down as well. Emmett normally is a guy that can spice it up there between 98 to 99 miles per hour. And during this, the 2 starts that he had on this 9-game East Coast swing, his velocity was barely touching 94 and 95. I think he got a couple of fastballs up to 97. But the point being is that his mechanics look off. It looks like his positioning coming off the mound is off, which can affect the pitcher. And overall, he just doesn't look confident out there on the mound either. And this has actually caused a little bit of trade rumors to pop up surfacing Emmett Sheehan, because he has been mentioned in potential trade discussions involving Tarek Skubal. So, but enough of that. We'll get into that later. So that's my good, bad, and ugly take from this 9-game road trip for the Dodgers. And give me just a quick second here to get a glass of water because my voice is dry. Okay, so we went into the good, the bad, and the ugly. So another good thing for the Dodgers here is, yay, we're getting some more reinforcements back this week, which is very important. But, hey, first of all, we got to see if they can stay healthy. I'm going to start off with Mr. Utility himself, Kike Hernandez. It was made official today that Kike is set to come off the injured list on Tuesday. Apparently, he's responded well in all of his rehab starts. The rehab starts haven't been impressive overall offensively, and that's one thing that kind of irritates me about us fans is that when these guys go on rehab assignments, we want them to go 3 for 3 and 4 for 4, and we want them to smack the ball from here to Los Alamitos. I don't really care about that so much as I care about how the player responds on the field. Now, Kike was coming off a pretty bad oblique injury, and from what I heard, the Dodgers are actually amazed that he progressed this fast, because I think the oblique injury was close to a grade 3 strain, which is about as serious of an oblique injury as it could be. But he worked really hard. He did a lot of rest, a lot of rehab. And so at this point, what I want to see from Kike is how comfortable he is with the swing, because an oblique injury, when a player comes back from that type of injury, especially as a hitter, they tend to be a real tentative when they're up to bat, because they don't want to be too aggressive for fear that if they bring the bat all the way around, they're potentially could re-injure that oblique again. And some hitters even have never recovered from oblique injuries just because they're too afraid to swing the bat. Also, it's going to take Kike a little bit more time to come back timing-wise. He has to get his swing back. He has to get the timing back. That's one of the most important things for hitters. And I heard Tony Gwynn say this a long time ago during his heyday with the Padres is one of the 2 most important things a great hitter can have is timing. And so when Kike is coming back, I'm going to be looking at what is his timing like in the box? How comfortable is he swinging the bat? I don't care if he goes 3 for 3 or 4 for 4. I just want to see how he responds on the field. And then also when he plays defensively, whatever position that is, I want to see how comfortable he is playing defensively. So it's going to be great to have Kike back. Plus, he is a ball of lightning in the clubhouse. He is an energetic player. He has a lot of weird quirks and eccentricities that sometimes rub fans the wrong way. But by and large, we all love Kike, and we want to see him back out there. And also keep in mind that when he came off his first injured list stint earlier this year, he went 4 for 4 with 2 home runs in just 2 games. So I'm not saying he's going to do the same thing here, but hopefully he can keep that positive mojo coming off his second IL stint going. As far as Blake Snell is concerned, we are expected to get Snell back later this week to put him back in the starting rotation. Now, The Dodgers, it sounds like they're kind of targeting a Wednesday or a Thursday return. He was supposed to have another rehab stint at Oklahoma City, I think possibly on Tuesday. And if he comes out of that rehab stint fairly well or fairly productive, then the Dodgers will be set to activate him, which brings up a good point, because when they activate him, well, who are they going to send down? Who are they going to make a spot for on the roster to put him back in the rotation? To be honest, I really don't know, because I haven't heard anything about that yet. I'd love to say that Sheehan's going to get the boot in that department, but I just don't know. The Dodgers could also, they could also put another player on waivers, or they could send another player down. I don't know what their intentions are with Snell right now, but we have Blake coming back. He's just around the corner now. He's just got to prove, like Kike, that he can stay on the roster longer than one game, longer than one day. And we know Snell's proclivity for having injury problems, so I hope that Blake can at least contribute something when he comes back. As for Tyler Glasnow, who knows? Now, he did start throwing to some live hitters this past weekend, which is semi-good news. But again, the Dodgers are still being very tight-lipped about Tyler's situation. And as much as I want to criticize him and harp on him for not being able to stay healthy, I know what a competitor he is. And I know that when he is on his game, this guy is as tough to hit as any pitcher in baseball. And we saw that towards the end of last season, especially through October. Tyler had some really, really good starts where he gritted it out, and he showed just how good he is. But this is one of those age-old questions of, are the Dodgers really getting their best return for the investment they have on Tyler Glasnow? And it seems like every season he's going to make about 4 or 5 starts in April through mid-May, serve his customary 3 to 4 month stint on the injured list, get activated in September, make a roll through October, and then all is well. And of course, that's how the Dodgers like it, because Andrew Friedman does not value wins and strikeouts and innings pitched in April, May, and June, so long as you can be on that mound in August, September, and October, providing the production that the Dodgers expect from him down the stretch. So I don't agree with that philosophy, but that's just how it seems it is. So with Glasnow, even though he's throwing to batters, that's not necessarily a good thing, because they are still limiting his workload. And again, right now it sounds like best case scenario, he probably won't be back until September. I didn't include Will Smith on this list here as far as reinforcements, because it sounds like with Will's situation, it's a lot more serious. And of course it was. This has been the longest. He's only going to be out for a day injury in the history of Major League Baseball. My belief is that Will Smith does not come back at all this season. I would even be surprised if he comes back in the postseason, because given the amount of time that he's been off, if he is able to come back before the end of the season, he's going to need a full rehab stint, which usually consists of an entire month of playing at different levels in the minor league system, just to get your timing back, your swing back, just to get your baseball feet back under you. And it's a little too much to expect Will Smith to give them the production he's given them in the past by activating him at the end of September. My belief is that he is out for the rest of the regular season, and I also think he's going to be out for the entire postseason as well. I've also read some interesting articles where this injury could potentially be career-threatening. I surely hope it isn't. It's a serious neck injury. I certainly hope it isn't, because Will, when he is healthy and when he is right, is a very solid catcher. I don't think he is a star, but he's been an all-star before, but I don't consider him a quote-unquote star, meaning that he's not the main guy in that lineup that the Dodgers rely on for the bulk of their run production. But when everything is right with Will, he's definitely good with the bat. And behind the plate as well, he's turned into a much better signal caller. He's turned into a much better pitch selector as well, working with that starting rotation. So as much as we would all love to have Will back, I just don't think it's going to happen. And I'll get into that as far as Dodgers trade deadline targets are, or what they're going to be coming up here in just a second. Okay, so, I did mention the trade deadline, because that silly old trade deadline is just around the corner, like I mentioned at the beginning of the show. I believe August 3rd is the deadline for the non-waiver trade deadline. And for those of you who don't know what that is, that basically means that any team in Major League Baseball can make a trade for any player without that player having to pass through waivers. Why is that important? Because the waiver process works this way. If a team trades for a player post-trade deadline, then that means that that player first has to pass through waivers. The waiver process works this way. So let's say the Dodgers wanted to trade for a catcher to replace Will Smith post-trade deadline. And let's say they wanted to trade for Hunter Goodman of the Colorado Rockies. Well, if they were to trade for Goodman from the Rockies after the deadline, that means that, it wouldn't happen for the Dodgers in this case because they're the best team overall in Major League Baseball. But if the Dodgers were like the third or fourth best team in baseball, the other teams above them would have a chance to either block that trade or even claim Goodman as well, preventing the Dodgers from getting him. Now, that's not going to happen in this situation because, again, the Dodgers have the best record overall in Major League Baseball. But that non-waiver trade deadline is so important because that's when teams can wheel and deal without having to worry about other teams blocking their transactions and messing up their potential rosters heading down the last 50 or 60 games of the regular season. So, Dodgers trade deadline targets. With that being said, you guys have all heard of this guy named Tarik Skubal. You know, back-to-back American League Cy Young Award winner, left-handed pitcher for the Detroit Tigers. Now, the Dodgers have been the number one team in terms of a Tarik Skubal trade because, the Dodgers have a lot of minor league depth that they can work with. And Andrew Friedman and Brandon Gomes pretty much have carte blanche to deal anybody in their farm system that they want, especially at the outfield position, where they have players like Jose De Paula, they have Kendall George, they have Zaire Hope, they have Charles Davallon. They have so many good, James Tibbs III, whom they got in that Dustin May trade with the Red Sox. They have so many good, young, talented outfielders that are among the top 100 players in Major League Baseball's minor league prospect pipeline that they can deal from the dearth of that minor league talent down there and pull off a trade for Skubal. So they have the assets that Detroit covets in order to pull off a Skubal trade. Right now, what has captured everybody's attention is how the Tigers are playing. They have jumped back into the wild card race. And even though they had to kind of navigate through some rough waters here, I think they dropped 2 out of 3 this past weekend. They've kind of been playing up and down recently. Really, what's going to determine Skubal's fate is how the Tigers do the rest of the way up until the trade deadline. And I have a comment in here. Is he worth 10 starts? That's something I'll get into here in just a second. My belief is this. The Tigers are going to hold on to Tarik Skubal as long as they can. So I think they're going to hold on to him up until the deadline. And I think that's regardless of how well they play or how well they don't play. Obviously, if they go on a Miami Marlins-esque 12-game losing streak within the next 7 to 10 days, a lot of things could change since then. But I don't think that Scott Harris, the president of the Tigers, and Jeff Greenberg, who is their or Jeff Goldberg, who is their general manager, look, they are not pressured at all to deal Skubal right now before the deadline. So in other words, the ball is in their court. Can the Dodgers win without Tarik Skubal? Yes, they can. We won the World Series without him last season, and we won the World Series without him in 2024. Does acquiring Skubal and putting him in that rotation automatically make us the favorites? Sure, it does. But like I say with every player that we acquire, he's got to stay healthy. And even though he's had a successful recovery from the Skubal scope surgery to remove loose bodies, Skubal does contain a little bit of injury risk. Also, there is the contractual situation as well. Is he going to get the big money? And this is where that comment of is he worth the 10 starts comes into play. We all know that relations right now between Major League Baseball and its Players Association are not really solid. And I believe, and a lot of other people believe, that there is going to be a lockout in 2027. I don't think it's going to wipe out the entire season, but I think it's going to take away a good chunk of it. And so the Dodgers right now, I think where they stand is, okay, they have the best record in MLB. Okay, they're going to win the NL West again, although the Diamondbacks are surging, so we have to watch out and see what Arizona does, see if they become buyers or sellers at the deadline or a combination of both. But getting back to the Dodgers and Skubal, the Dodgers have to assess their situation from, okay, we're in a pretty good shape as far as our record is concerned. We're getting some of these injured guys back, like Blake Snell. Edwin Diaz is coming back as well to help fortify the back end of that bullpen. Tyler Glasnow will be coming back eventually. So do we really want to trade for Skubal, have him just on a 2 or a 3 month rental, and then run the risk of not being able to re-sign him? Because when a new collective bargaining agreement is eventually ratified and agreed upon, it's going to look much different than the current one they're squabbling about right now. And any contract that was signed before the new CBA gets ratified, whenever that is going to have to be grandfathered in, and it's going to have to be restructured. Do the Dodgers really want to deal with that headache? So do they want to deal with, one, trying to convince Skubal to sign long-term in LA, and then two, most importantly, if he does sign long-term in LA, what are the dollar signs going to look like? What's the overall guaranteed money going to look like? What is the bonus situation going to look like? So again, there's a lot of moving parts about this. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we don't know about as well. But still, leading up to the trade deadline, we can expect the Tarik Skubal to the LA Dodger trade rumors to continue to heat up. But again, the Dodgers absolutely have no pressure on them to trade for Skubal right now. The ball is in Scott Harris and Jeff Greenberg's court. They're the ones that hold his fate in their hands. So it'll be interesting to see how the Tigers do in the next 7 to 10 days leading up to the trade deadline. And if they continue to play fairly well and get back in it, I think they ultimately hold on to him. I don't think they deal him. If they continue to snowball into hell and everything just goes to heck from there, then I think they're going to be more inclined to get rid of him. But that's just my opinion. I'm not an expert. That's just what I believe. That kind of goes into my next topic, which is catcher. So I mentioned Will Smith just a few minutes ago, and I think this is actually the most important position need that the Dodgers have to address at the trade deadline. Because even though Dalton Rushing has done a commendable job of holding down that position for Will Smith, he's starting to heat up offensively as well, which I should have put that in there with the good, but I didn't, so I apologize. He's done a decent job behind the plate, calling balls and strikes as well. Elieser Alfonso has been a serviceable backup, but the Dodgers really don't know what they can expect from him going down the stretch, especially in a part-time situation. I believe the Dodgers need to focus their attentions on a catcher and then a solid reliever to put in the back end of that bullpen. And you see here on the screen two names that I wrote down, Ryan Jeffers and Mitch Garver. I'm going to get to Mitch Garver first because some of you are probably saying, Jason, are you crazy? Are you sick in the head? Why would you want the Dodgers to trade for a catcher who's batting under 200 this season with just a couple of homers and just a handful of RBIs, blah, 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 this and this and that and that? Well, here's the reason why. Garver's a veteran. Garver knows how to handle a pitching staff, okay? And even though he hasn't been swinging the bat well with the Mariners this season, I feel that if he was put in that Dodgers lineup, I think Freddie Freeman, I think Mookie Betts, I think Shohei, I think all the others could help make Mitch Garver a little bit better. And he's been a decent receiver behind the plate. He's not fantastic, but he's not a slouch either. Now, aside from Garver, the number one target out there among catchers in the trade deadline is Ryan Jeffers from the Minnesota Twins, and he's putting in a solid offensive season and doing a fairly good job behind the plate as well. Excuse me. Now, the problem with the catcher position at the trade deadline is there are not a lot of great options available out there. So I would imagine that two of the top guys at that position who are going to be moved will be Jeffers and will be Garver. But I would like to see Jeffers on the Dodgers because, again, first and foremost, he's swinging a better bat than Garver. I think he's batting close to 300, whereas Garver is batting barely over 200. And we need that type of production that he can provide. And I think having him split time with Dalton Rushing would be a much better long-term solution for the Dodgers than having Elieser Alfonso still share time with Dalton Rushing. And I mean, look, Dalton Rushing could still be dangled as a trade target as well. Now, that's not going to happen because of Will Smith's situation. In fact, Will Smith's injury changed that whole dynamic for the Dodgers and Dalton Rushing. Before Will's injury, Rushing's name was popping up on trade speculation, everywhere. Was he going to go to Baltimore? Was he going to go to Cincinnati? Was he going to go to Texas, wherever? But that obviously has changed. That dynamic has changed. So I think the Dodgers really keep their eye on Tarik Skubal, but I think they really need to focus on adding another veteran player behind the plate to give Dalton Rushing a few more breathers here before the end of the season. You also see a name that I have here at the end, which is Clay Holmes. For those of you who don't know who Clay Holmes is, he's a right-handed reliever for the New York Mets. Now, we just got done winning 2 out of 3 against the Mets. So why do I say Clay Holmes? Well, Clay Holmes has really some respectable numbers out of that Mets bullpen. I think his ERA is about 2.43. He is a veteran arm, and he is a right-hander. We don't need really a lot of quality left-handers coming out of the bullpen because we already have them, with Tanner Scott having such a good turnaround season. Alex Vesia, he's going to frustrate you. He's going to make you pull your hair out by walking 2 or 3 batters in every appearance, but he gets the outs. He finds a way to keep runners stranded when that happens. And I mentioned towards the start of the show, guys, that our right-handed relievers right now are stinking it up. Will Klein is stinking it up. Evan Phillips has had a difficult time since he got activated off the injured list. Bringing in Clay Holmes would be a wonderful veteran addition to A, take the pressure off of Evan Phillips and Will Klein, and B, I think Clay Holmes is a much better option as far as long inning relief is concerned, because at this rate, with Evan Phillips's injury problems and with Will Klein's inconsistencies, I would feel a lot better with a guy like Clay Holmes coming in to pitch the 6th, 7th, even 8th inning if possible, rather than having Evan Phillips and Will Klein be extended when they don't really excel at that long inning stuff anyway. Evan Phillips did before his elbow problems, but right now, coming off a second Tommy John surgery, I just wouldn't feel comfortable stretching Evan Phillips out longer than 2 or 3, 4, maybe 5 batters. So that's where Clay Holmes kind of comes into play. I don't know how urgent or how important the Mets really view Holmes in terms of trading him. I did hear some rumors watching the game today that as we get closer to the deadline, David Stearns has already said, look, we're open for business. Clay is going to be one of the guys we're going to listen to. So I'm not saying the Dodgers are going to get him, but he makes sense for them given the needs they have at the back end of the bullpen. He is a veteran. He's putting up quality numbers this year, and he would be pitching behind a much better defense than the one he's pitching behind now, which would be good for him in the late innings of those games as well. So that's kind of my wrap up from this past weekend, from the 9-game road trip. Again, the Dodgers, a lot of good, a lot of bad, a lot of ugly, but overall they went 6-3, which I was satisfied with. They have an off day tomorrow, so they're going to have a chance to kind of rest and recuperate a little bit before they begin a tough homestand. They play 3 games against the Mariners on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at the Ravine, and then they have, the Boston Red Sox coming in next weekend, which just a month ago I looked out on the schedule and said, man, this will be a cakewalk. But I tell you, hashtag fear the Red Sox. And they're going to be buyers at the deadline. There, no way in hell is Craig Breslow going to sell now. But anyway, so just as soon as the Dodgers get done with this road trip, they have a tough homestand, 3 against Seattle, 3 against Boston. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do playing back at the Ravine for the first time since early July. Moving on to our next target. There we go. I want to extend some congratulations to Jeff Kent. That's right, Jeff Kent. Congratulations, Jeff. He was one of 3 primary players inducted into Cooperstown this past weekend. He joins Andrew Jones and the great Carlos Beltran as being the newest members enshrined into the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Now, Jeff Kent enshrined in the Hall of Fame with taking a look at his numbers here, guys. Overall, 377 career home runs, which is the most in history, guys, of any player at second base. And when I look at the rest of Jeff Kent's career stats, I take a look here. He has over, let's see if I'm reading that right, RBIs, as I scan down. He has over 1,500 RBIs, 1,518 RBIs. He had over 8,498 plate appearances. He has over 2,461 hits. So congratulations to Jeff Kent for making the Hall of Fame. And I say that because Jeff Kent actually played for the Dodgers. Now, those of you Giants fans know that he earned his bread and butter mostly playing with the Giants, and rightfully so. I mean, he and JT Snow and Barry Bonds were about as lethal of a middle of the lineup as you could have during that time in Major League Baseball. And they always pissed the hell out of me because every time we would play the Giants during that time in their franchise's history, if it wasn't Bonds taking us yard, it was Kent taking us yard. And JT Snow, if he wasn't taking us yard, he was making outstanding defensive plays at first base. He was bringing home runners left and right. So Kent was a part of that Giants success, but he did play with the Dodgers. Yes, he played with the Dodgers from 2005 to 2008. his best overall season with the Dodgers during that brief stint came actually in his first year. He had 29 home runs, drove in 105 runs. He also had, let's see, it looks like here he had a slugging percentage better than .925, which was outstanding. Now, Kent is really unique because, and looking at some research, unless I'm wrong here, Kent is one of the few players to go into the Hall of Fame after having the bulk of his success come after his age 29 year. Remember, Kent has played for numerous teams throughout his career. I believe he was originally drafted by either the Blue Jays or the Indians, who are known as the Guardians now. But he's played in Toronto, he's played in Cleveland, he played in San Francisco, played in LA, played with the Astros, and he also had some stints playing with the New York Mets as well. So Kent was a well-traveled player, but all of his success came after his age 27, age 29 year, which makes his Hall of Fame career even more impressive when you think that all of that, the bulk of that run production came when he was supposed to be considered past his prime. Because in Major League Baseball, players that hit their prime usually are in their age 24 to 27 years, with that age 27 year being where they really shoot up or where they really fall down, depending on how well they progress. So congratulations to Jeff Kent. You definitely earned your enshrinement in Cooperstown, and just glad to see you go in there. And yes, I agree. Lou Whitaker should be in that Hall of Fame as well. You can't have Alan Trammell in that Hall of Fame without Lou Whitaker, who undoubtedly were the best double play duo in Major League Baseball history. That's my opinion. Trammell played short, Whitaker played second. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I agree with you guys. Get Lou Whitaker in there as well. Okay, so we're getting down towards the end of the show here. So I just mentioned we have this really big 6-game homestand coming up. 3 against the Mariners, 3 against the Red Sox. Now, I say it's very important because even though the Mariners have kind of fluctuated back and forth this season, they lose 5, they win 5, they lose 3, they win 6, lose 6, win 3, whatever. They're in a division that's still very winnable in the American League West. We do not want to take this team for granted. We do not want to take this team for granted. Also, let's keep in mind that the Mariners still have a pretty darn impressive pitching staff. And so those pitchers do a fantastic job at limiting the big hits, getting the strikeouts, and preventing runs from scoring. And those happen to be the 3 most important offensive categories for the Dodgers. So whether they're facing Brian Wu, whether they're facing Bryce Miller, if I got his name wrong, I apologize. Point is that Mariners pitching is still really solid, really good. And the Dodgers are really, really going to have to be cautious with their at-bats as they start off their homestand against the Mariners. And I mentioned 3 against the Red Sox. It goes without saying. Boston is playing the best baseball right now of any team in Major League Baseball. If the Marlins hadn't decided to tank 12 consecutive games post-All-Star break, it would be the Marlins, but they decided to give the Red Sox a favor and give them a mulligan and say, here you go, Chowds. And by the way, Boston Paul, I'm happy for you, bro. I'm happy that your Sox are climbing back in it. And this will be a test for the Dodgers because this is a much different Red Sox team than the one they faced earlier in the season. I think they played them earlier this year at Fenway, if I remember right. So this is a much different team. They're a lot more confident. And I gotta give a lot of credit to their interim manager, Chad Tracy, because when he was dropped into that spot after Alex Cora and his coaching staff were fired, Tracy really, it was a no-win situation for him. They just wanted him to go in there and keep the bench warm until they could find somebody to replace Cora full-time next season. Tracy, though, has done a fantastic job of mixing and matching the lineup based on the games that I've seen. But it just looks like the team is having fun. And they didn't have fun when Alex Cora was in the dugout. For whatever reason, I don't know why that didn't happen, especially given, how Cora is supposed to be able to relate to younger players. But at any rate, this Red Sox team is a lot more dangerous, and they are really keeping the American League East race interesting between them, the Yankees, and the Tampa Bay Rays. So even though the Red Sox have more to play for from a divisional standpoint, the Dodgers, again, do not want to take them for granted. So these next 6 home games are going to be just as important for LA as the past 9 games were on the road post All-Star break. So that is pretty much all I had to share with the Dodgers with you guys tonight. So I hope you enjoyed what you saw. Hope you found it informative. I always like to make it informative. Gosh darn it. 1 second, please. Sorry, getting a raspy voice there. At any rate, I also want to thank all the guys at Driving to the Top Productions for helping me make this happen, to share my love of the game, to share my knowledge of the game, but also most importantly, to share my love of Dodgers baseball, because I really truly do love this team, and I'm glad to share my love and my affection for this team with you guys as well. Usually when I get on open mic night on Tuesdays and on Fans of the Diamond on Mondays before I leave, I like to give out parting shots. So I'm going to give out a parting shot tonight, and it's not related to baseball. It's related to the NBA. The semi-biggest sports headline we had this past weekend, guys, LeBron James. Yes, LeBron James signed with the Philadelphia 76ers. It was a 2-year, $8 million deal to take his talents to the city of brotherly love. LeBron James has spent his entire career trying to convince everybody that he is the greatest of all time. LeBron James has spent his entire career proving to everybody that he is the greatest player to wear number 23, not another guy that we know by the name of MJ. LeBron has spent his entire career proving to everybody that the basketball world revolves around him. LeBron James is going to make sure that when he retires, he's going to get a Legends Parade thrown by every single city he played for or played in. He's also going to make sure the cameras are focused on him. He's going to have a farewell press conference like they all do, but this cat is not going to go out quietly. This cat is going to make sure there are statues in front of Cleveland, Miami, Los Angeles, and now Philadelphia, regardless of how well he does there. This cat is going to make sure he gets keys to the city from every city in the NBA he's ever played in. This cat is going to make sure he's at the top of the record books like he is. But where I'm going with this is LeBron James has spent so much time trying to convince everybody that he's the greatest of all time that he actually forgot what a great career he's had. Okay? When LeBron James does retire, whether that's in 2 years or 3 years or whatever, he will retire as one of the most prolific offensive players on all-around players in the history of the NBA. That's not my opinion. Those are the numbers. All right. He became the NBA's all-time leading scorer, I believe he did, last season with the Lakers. So the point, again, I'm trying to make is that LeBron James should spend more time focusing on the great career that he's had rather than trying to convince everybody that he is the greatest of all time and trying to make everybody forget about Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Karl Malone, and the like. LeBron, you're in the latter stages of your career. You've had a career that everybody would want to have. Enjoy it. Enjoy riding off into the sunset. And all I can say is Michael Jordan is still the GOAT. And I'm a Magic Johnson Lakers fan, and I'm admitting that Michael Jordan is still the GOAT. But hey, LeBron, more power to you. It's your decision. The Sixers are your team now, so have fun destroying them the way you destroyed the Los Angeles Lakers. And with that, that's my parting shot. So again, thanks to everyone for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back again next week with another informative show about Dodgers baseball, all things baseball, and something here and in between and somewhere beyond as well. Until then, I'll see you guys on the flip side. Take care. Peace out. God bless. And please take care of yourselves. So with that, all the best, and you guys have a good night.